Hello, Seawolves, and welcome to the first edition of Stony Brook Newsbreak. I'm Robert Shabilsky.
And I'm Sky Crabtree. Let's get right into our top story. Israeli forces carried out additional airstrikes on Wednesday in Beirut's suburbs against what Israel's military said were Hezbollah targets, while 8 Israeli soldiers were killed in clashes against the militant group on the same day. On Tuesday, Iran fired nearly 200 ballistic missiles at Israel as a direct response to Hezbollah's leader being killed, while Israel and American military forces intercepted a large number of missiles. An Israeli airbase in the Negev desert was struck during the attack. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran made a big mistake today and it will pay for it. President Biden said that the United States is in full support of Israel.
We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go forward.
Tim Walz and J.D. Vance engaged in the first and only vice presidential debate of the 2024 election on Tuesday night. Personal attacks were set aside for this debate, and attacks were mainly directed toward their running mates, Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Walz condemned Vance for sidestepping a question about his stance on the validity of the 2020 election, saying that Trump's false claims of voter fraud were responsible for the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Vance instead portrayed Trump as a leader who made the world safer during his presidency. The candidates clashed over addressing the escalating tensions in the Middle East. Vance suggested support for Israel's judgment preemptive strikes against Iran, while Walz refrained from giving a clear stance. On abortion, Vance spoke for his party, and Walz came back at Vance with his rebuttal.
My party, we've got to do so much better of a job at earning the American people's trust back on this issue where they frankly just don't trust us.
How can we as a nation say that your life and your rights, as basic as the right to control your own body, is determined on geography?
Analysts do note that vice presidential debates rarely sway elections. However, polls show that the public views both Vance and Walz more positively following the debate.
And nearly 50,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association are on strike Tuesday against the nation's East and Gulf Coast ports. Dock workers began picketing at the Port of Philadelphia early Tuesday morning, hours after the International Longshoremen's Association announced its workers would go on strike. The strike, which began at midnight, will stop the flow of a wide variety of goods over the docks of almost all cargo ports from Maine to Texas. It could also stop U.S. exports now flowing through those ports, hurting sales for American companies. Negotiations between the unions and port authorities are ongoing, but no resolution has been reached. Officials warn that a prolonged action could have widespread economic impacts across multiple industries.
Nobody knew what the longshoremen were. We didn't get respected, but now we will. Now we will when they find out malls are going to shut down because goods can't come in.
Baseball fans nationwide are mourning the legend Pete Rose, who passed away at the age of 83 at his Las Vegas home on Monday. Known as the Hit King, Rose holds the record for most hits in MLB history, amassing 4,256 hits over his 24 illustrious year career. Despite being a 17-time All-Star and a 3-time World Series champion, Rose was ineligible for induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame because of his ban from the league in 1989 for betting. However, he's still remembered positively by many for his charisma and love for baseball, with tributes pouring in from fans all across the country following the news of his passing.
And excitement is high in the Big Apple as the New York Mets continued their hot stretch in the first game of the playoffs. The Mets won Game 1 of the Wild Card Series against the Milwaukee Brewers Tuesday night by a final score of 8-4. The Mets took the lead in the 5th inning, scoring 5 runs to blow the game open thanks to clutch hits from designated hitter J.D. Martinez, third baseman Mark Vientos, and second baseman Jose Iglesias. Since the wild card round was moved from a single game to a best-of-3 series in 2022, teams that won the first game have moved on to the next round 88% of the time. Game 2 of the series takes place tonight at 7:38 p.m. Eastern Time.
The Stony Brook men's lacrosse team took part in remembering former captain John Ryan from the class of 1990. Ryan passed away on 9/11 as a member of the FDNY as a first responder at Ground Zero. Each year, the team runs the Tunnel to Towers 5K to honor his memory and keep his legacy alive. To learn more about the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, you can head to t2t.org.
And are you ever bothered by those pesky red light cameras? Here's Alex Diamaro reporting on their uncertain future.
Drivers from all over Suffolk County, New York are waiting in anticipation for the end of one of the more controversial projects the county has had. The red light camera program, which was signed into law in 2010, placed over 200 cameras at 100 different intersections across the county. Running a red light or turning too fast on red warrants a $50 fine. The project is set to expire at the start of December after county lawmakers did not put in a bill with the state to renew it. Anthony Dazzo, an Islip resident, thinks that while the cameras have made the roads safer, they do have flaws.
To a degree, red light cameras have made the roads safer. I also feel like at certain intersections they're not needed. Now that's also at my discretion, not the discretion of the people that make those decisions.
However, the cameras were not placed at random intersections, according to Christine Malafi, who was the county attorney at the time the project began.
Suffolk County Department of Public Works did studies on the crash history for various intersections within the county. And the cameras were placed based upon that survey of high accident intersections.
Sam Karachi, a Deer Park resident, stops at every red light and does not turn on red, so no camera catches her off guard.
They make the roads a lot safer. Yes, I think it's a hassle looking for, we're scoping red light cameras out, but once again, if I'm not at a race for time, I'd rather wait at the red light than beat the yellow one.
The enhanced safety that the cameras provide is evident. Since the cameras were put in place, there has been a 10% decrease in the amount of crashes resulting in injury. What many residents tend to overlook is why the program was not renewed in the first place.
Part of the reason that it is where it is because this is an election year. And the realities of situations are when legislators have to run for re-election, they don't want their opposition to say, oh, look, this person voted to continue the red light camera program.
So after all, these cameras may not be gone for long, if at all.
Probably pretty quickly after the election, there might be a vote to extend the program.
The next meeting of the Suffolk County Legislature is November 24th, just a couple weeks after Election Day and a couple days after the project is set to expire.
Honestly, I think they should just renew it. There's not enough police officers and law enforcement officers to ensure that every intersection is safe without them. So, biggest thing for me is just renew it.
It is not guaranteed that the cameras will come back, but if they do, it is certain that the residents of the county will have mixed emotions.
The 39th president, Jimmy Carter, turned 100 years old on Tuesday, making him the first U.S. president to have lived a full century. Carter's grandson, Jason Carter, spoke about his grandfather's reaction to reaching this milestone.
He's very limited in what he can do. He can't talk on the phone. He's following the news. When we asked him, was he excited about his 100th birthday, he said, I'm excited about that, but I'm really excited to vote for Kamala Harris.
The former president and Nobel Peace Prize recipient viewed a military flyover in his hometown of Plains, Georgia, held in celebration of his birthday. That's all for today. Once again, I'm Robert Shabilsky.
And I'm Sky Crabtree. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.